Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your hayikal, your body, the sentient body you dwell inside, with your yad and your kaf, with your regal and your mind, your frontal lobe, your makashba, your personality, within your 12 cranial nerves, within your 12 melanin centers, within your heart and your mind, with your ayin, that you may be able to see, and with your ears that you may be able to hear, with your right ear, Yahuwah, and hear the mahi with the left ear, understanding what's inside of you. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is today that Yahuwah has given to us another shabath, that we may cease from our own selfish self, our own selfish ways, and our own selfish plans, and be united in the Ruach Qahalath, and understanding that to make an alliance with Yahuwah and plans according to the Ruach, not according to our flesh. For today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all the nahar, the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth, under the earth, and the rivers and streams in the nahar, that the shimmering light that comes from his throne. That all people may know that Yahuwah sits in the highest shamayim, even as the highest mountains on earth. And that all nations will flow for him for mishpat, for judgment. And these are all part of the understandings of Yasharal, the 12 tribes, and those who will inherit through the gates of New Jerusalem when they all enter in through those 12 gates. So as we move forward as the originals. We move forward as the Kar Nakabar, male and female, man and woman. We move forward as Yahuwah's image and likeness in the earth. For that's how we ought to live in this world, and not any other image in this world. Right, so this is the third day, the 28th Yom, 28th day of the third month. 28th day of the third month, so we're a couple days out from the transition. This is the first 90 days in a 364-day cycle, moving toward the longest day. And the summer solstice is approaching, and now we're getting into late summer. And understanding the fruits will bear. The fruits will bear inside of man, woman, and child. The fruits will bear inside of the Goim, the nations. The fruits will bear inside of the 12 tribes. And that understanding will take place within themselves. And all the behaviors, whether they're good or evil, will manifest themselves. For there are many things to do and to accomplish and to participate in. And those things that you participate in will be your fruit to Yahuwah, right? So this book of Exodus, chapter 20. It's in the email. Book of Exodus, chapter 20, 4 through 6. This is the book of Exodus, Shemuth, chapter 20, 4 through 6. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, 4 through 6. You shall not make for yourself carved images, right? So that's anything carved. Anything that you see, you carve it with your hands, your yard and your kaf. You say you should not make it. Why? Or any likeness of anything that's in the shamayim above, so that's in anything that's above, that's in the Rakia, that's in the constellations, Orion, Uranus, Akima, Quetzal, that's also in the Mazzaroth in the constellations. You say don't make any image on shamayim above. Or Yahushua himself. Or that is in the earth beneath, even all the things that's underneath the earth, an earthworm, a spider, right? Anything that you can think of, a bird, you say an earthworm, a spider, a burrowing mole, it doesn't matter what it may be. Or in the earth beneath, or even in the beings in Sheol, even Hellboy and all the other demons in Shadim. Don't make any image of them. Or that is in the water under the earth, that's any fish, whale, shark, mermaid, it doesn't matter what it may be. Don't make no image of them. Why? You shall not bow down to them or serve them. That means to spend your time and your energy and your heart and your mind in it. Because when you spend your time and your heart and your energy in it, then it becomes what? Idol worship. Because there's only one Elohim you're supposed to serve. For I, Yahuwah, your Elohim, am a Kina Elohim. He's a Kina. He's a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquities of the fathers, right? So the father teaches the children, teaches the Isha, teaches the children, teaches his household. So if the Abba, who's at the highest point, is teaching idol worship, everybody underneath him is accursed. Everyone. And guess what? It says, on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. So everything that you see that you're going through right now is the results of what? The Father, the Abba, that you serve. whichever one you serve the most, that's the one, that's the repayment that you get. Right? But showing steadfast love to thousands, right? So to those who love me and keep my commandments. So if you love Yahuwah, you will keep his commandments. Just like Yahushua said in Matthew 5:48. Everything, he said, be therefore a perfect, even as your Father in Shamayim is perfect. So everything be tamim, blameless. So if you're going to be blameless, male and female, male and woman, you have to stay away from certain things. You can't be like everybody else in the world. You know, because everybody doesn't want to be the oddball out, because you know you don't want to stand for truth and live for truth, a moth. You want to be the person that's accepted and loved. And everybody pat you on the back and give you a nice, good steak dinner or a dinner, and you're eating with them and you're having a great time. Because you done a lot of evil in your life, and now you feel like I'm accepted, right? But these are all, you're not accepted by Yahuwah, but you're accepted by other things. Right, so this is the book of Psalms, Tahalim, chapter 32 and 1. Psalms, Tahalim, 32 and 1. Tahalim, Psalms, chapter 32 and verse 1. It says, Barak, or blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven. So all these things that you read about, he said, Barak is the one whose transgressions is forgiven. So how you do that? Whose sin is covered. Your sin is covered. So how you going to do that? If you're being plagued from the third and fourth generation all the way to your lineage right now in your present life from your father's sins. Barak is the man against whom Yahuwah counts no iniquity. So now you see, what do you mean count? That means numbering them. I'm not going to put it to your charge. He said, you Barak. In whose Ruach there is no deceit. So in order to cancel out all of your father's sins, you have to have no deceit in your Ruach. Because, you know, be ye doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving your own self. So you got to put away all your deceit out of your heart and your mind. Right? We talk about it so many times, Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q57, 4Q257. But he said you got to put it all out of your heart and your mind. Once you get all the deceit out, then what happens? For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away. So when you don't say anything out of your mouth, so how do you get all this out of your heart and your mind? You have to speak. You have to do something out of your mouth in order for it to go away. In order for you to get deceit out of your heart and your mind. But if you keep silent, my bones wasted away. Though my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. He said day and night. That's evening and morning. Bakar Nereh. Iraq. My strength was dried up as by the heat of the summer. So what we in now? What are we going towards to right now? Summertime. We're in the summertime, but late summer. I'm talking about when the sun is like 105, 110, 90 degrees. He said, my strength was dried up as by the heat of the summer. Because you know what happens to your skin? It dries up. Because you know what happens? It starts to burn. Right, when you got no fluids in there, you're going to burn. Right? It's just like any other thing. When things start to dry up, what happens? It burns. How do you think wood burns? It's dry. You can't put wet wood in there. It has to dry out to change color. Really that simple. I acknowledge my sin to you. So see, this is the part where you have to exchange something. You have to acknowledge your sins to Yahuwah. If you don't, be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving your own self. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. So your death is to keep silent and don't say and confess your sins. That's your death. Your life is actually confessing your sins and opening your mouth and saying that out of your mouth. That's life. Now I say they'll have these slogans, that's life. But that is eternal life. That's life for you. He said, I acknowledge my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. That's why he says Barak is the man whose sins are covered. Because if you ain't covering your iniquity, then somebody can cover you if you ain't covering it up. If you ain't concealing it. If you ain't covertly hiding it, then Yahuwah can cover your sin. But he can't cover something you concealing. I said, I will confess my transgressions to Yahuwah. And he did what? And you forgave the iniquity of my sins. So that's how you get your sins covered, by confessing them, and then he covers it. If you don't ever say anything, then guess what? Visit the iniquities on the fathers to the children, to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Because if you don't hate Yahuwah, you're going to confess your sins. If you love Yahuwah, you're going to confess your sins. But if you hate him, you ain't. It's just really that simple. I hate Yahuwah. I hate you. I hate you. Therefore, I'm going to conceal my transgression and my sin from you, and I'm not going to confess anything because I hate you. Why do you think children in the household, sons and daughters, don't tell their father what they're doing in secret? Because they hate their father. I hate him. I hate him. And therefore, they don't say anything. They'll go tell their mother. Because the mother will help them conceal it. Yeah, they will. But the father won't. If he's righteous. And when you confess your sins, I can cover your sins. Because who's the covering of the household? I can't cover something you don't know. I don't know. Therefore, let everyone who is righteous, godly, offer prayer at the time when you may be found. Right? All this is a part of it. Right? Going back to the slide, this is Exodus chapter 34 and 14. Shemuth Exodus, I think I sent an email, but it said Exodus 34:14. Shemuth Exodus 34 and 14. Shemuth Exodus 34:14. Observe what I command you this day. He said, observe it. Why? Behold, I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, right? People. And the Jebusites. People. I'm going to drive out people. So when you lose people in your life and Yahuwah drives people out of your life and you call on Yahuwah and his son Yahushua and you confess your sins and you don't worship idols, if he drives people out of your life, why are you trying to retrieve them back? Why are you chasing them down? He said, why are you still leaving the door open? You must like insects in your house. Matter of fact, you like rats in your house. You like snakes. You like bats. He said you must like that in your house. You like bats. You like infections in your house. You must love it. Because that's the only reason you're leaving the door open. He said, I drove them out. Why are you leaving the door open? And he said, close the doors in your mind, right? And he said, why you leave the door open though? That's what Yahuwah says. He says, take care lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land to which you go, and it become a snare in your midst. See, this is the whole point of you closing the door. When somebody comes to bring solicitation to your door and things you don't want, what do? Not interested. Close the door. Not interested. Close the door. That's what you do. But if you make a covenant and agreement, then what happens? It's going to be a snare for you. Here goes your bill. Here goes your other bill. Here go your other bill. Here go your other bill. Here go your other bill. And it becomes an overwhelming feeling, and you're going to do what? What do I have to do to pay my debt? You'd be willing to do anything. It says, verse 13, you shall tear down their altars and break down their pillars and cut down their asherim. That's what you're supposed to do. In your life, you're supposed to have been done that. And then after you do that, for you shall worship no other God, no other Elohim, for Yahuwah, whose name is Kinah, is a Kinah all. His name is jealous, Kinah. So he said, that's evil to be jealous. Not when Yahuwah say, I'm the only Elohim you should have, I'm the only Abba you should have, I'm the only husband you should have. So therefore, if you call any other and you make a covenant with any other, and then I drive out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people out of your life that will not be my competition. Because they're gonna bring competition to me, and I'm gonna get jealous. Ooh, I'm gonna get Kinah. I'm going to be jealous because I drive out all these other people, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and I'm telling you to just tear down everything they got and be just like me and prove that you love me. He said, prove that you are haba me by tearing down everything that they offer you and that they have around you. That's how you prove you love somebody. He's like, I love you. No, I want you to do that. Now, if you don't really love me, who it says, if you don't do it, you don't ahaba me like you say you do. Because you won't do it in your own life. And guess what he says? For you shall worship no other Elohim, for Yahuwah, your Allah, whose name is Kinah, is a Kinah all, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and when they whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, and you are invited, you eat of his sacrifice. That's the whole point. I don't know how many times you get invited to things, and guess what? I'm not going. Because you know why? Because I already know what they're eating. I already know what they're doing. I already know what they're doing inside. I already know the plan and plot. I already know how it works. I'm not going. That's the whole point. Because if you do go, and you're invited, and you're going to mess around, and you're going to end up eating of their sacrifice. And you know what's going to happen after that? Let us offer up the sacrifice of praise, which is the fruit of our lips, right? Let us offer up the sacrifice of jealousy with the fruit of our lips. Let us offer up the sacrifice of slander, which is the fruit of our lips. Let us offer up the sacrifice of false accusation and false testimony and false rumors and gossip, which is the fruit of our lips. And then guess what you do? You indulge. Knowing it goes directly against Yahuwah Elohim and Yahushua Mashiach, and you'll indulge and you'll go with a false report. And guess what? It becomes your fruit of your lips. That's the fruit you bear. That's why I said summertime is here. You're going to bear your fruit in the summertime. I assure you, everything in your mind that you never thought would come back to your mind is in your mind right now if you didn't destroy it. I promise you that. You know, people say, ain't nothing in my mind. It ain't nothing in my mind. Ain't nothing rising up. I said, okay. Now I guess you ain't doing this right. You're not aware in your heart and your mind what's really going on inside of you. You're not really aware then. Because people who are aware know these things. You ain't awoke. Like you just say, stay awake. You ain't woke. You still sleep. Because people that sleep don't think it, yeah, it's just that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. You still sleep then. But here it says right here, and when they whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, you are invited, you eat of his sacrifice. And you take of their daughters for your sons, right? So then you start to take their daughters. He's like, man, look at that woman, look at that one. And their daughters who whore after their God. That's what they do. They invite you over, and then you know you got your kids, right? You got your children around. You're like, man, y'all gonna make a great couple. How much money you make? Man, y'all make a great couple. And guess what happens? Your daughters, it says, and you take their daughters for your sons, and their daughters whore after their gods, and make your sons whore after their gods, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation. Because that's the whole hope of having children. Is to have children, your daughter marrying somebody and your son marrying somebody, and then they having children and continuing on the family. Isn't that what it's for? But Yahuwah's like, so you would rather continue your family over with them and allow them to mix in my seed with your seed and then produce children. And then you're going to have fighting in your house because you're going to be a whoring after their gods, but then you're going to have to call on me at the same time. You know how it is. Yahuwah and all the other gods. And he's going to be like, which God you want? And you're going to be fighting all the time. Because you know why? And then you're going to have to give in. All right, I'm going to whore after your gods. You shall not make for yourselves any god of cast metal, right? All this is all part of it. But what is this important, right? This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon. The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Book of Wisdom of Solomon, or Book of Wisdom, chapter 14, verse 13. Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and verse 13. Actually, going up to verse. Let's go to verse 1. Let's go to verse 3. Actually, verse 1. Let's go there. Wisdom of Solomon 14:1. And again, one preparing himself to sail and about to pass through the raging waves calleth upon a piece of wood more rotten than the vessel that carried it. He's like, now you see, you don't went whoring after their Elohims. Now you're calling on a piece of wood, and you literally worshiping a rotten piece of wood because it looked like somebody, like Bigfoot, or like a human being, right? or an engine, like they say. Verse 2: For verily the desire of gain devised that, and the workman built it by skill. Why? Because they want to sell it. What's the point of making all that? I'm gonna make a bunch of idols out of a big, giant, huge tree and not sell it. That's the whole point. But thy province, O Father, governeth it. For Abba governeth it. For thou hast made a way in the sea and a safe path in the waves. That's why they came. We came out of Mizraim, didn't we? We already did that. In the first 15 days of the first month. You supposed to already came. But guess what? Showing that thou canst save all from all danger. Yea, though a man went to sea without ark. We say you ain't had none of that stuff when you went through them walls of water on the left and the right. Did you have any of that? Only thing you had in your kneading pots and your dough. And some of the wealth of the Mizraim, you ain't have none of the idols, right? But let's see. Nevertheless, thou wouldest not that the works of thy wisdom should be idle. You say you ain't want all that stuff. Man, you know all that stuff I learned in the world? Man, I learned this and that. I learned how to do a whole bunch of things. You know how it is. You boast on your knowledge and your understanding. You boast on what you learned, your degrees, your PhDs, your special wisdom that you got. Right? All that knowledge you got from your past career. You boast on it. But you know how it is. Your wisdom. It says, nevertheless, thou wouldest not that the works of thy wisdom should be idle. I don't want to be dead. Therefore do men commit their lives to a small piece of wood, and passing the rough sea in a weak vessel, are saved. For in the old time also, when the proud giants perished, we talked about what? Shem Yaza, Azazel, Azbaal, Penuel. What they do? You see what they did? They giants perished. The children of the adulterous women, they all died. When the proud giants perished, are you proud? The hope of the world governed by the hand escaped in a weak vessel. He said, you see what happened? He used a piece of wood to get them out. But the proud giants who worship idols, he didn't. They too fat, they too big to get in the ark. He's like, man, you can't get in this ark. How big are you? You know how you bloated? You know how when you're real bloated, you can't get in the ark. You know how you seen the Daryls, and you see how big their stomach is? They got two stomachs. They got one in their neck and in their gut. He said, you can't get in the ark. He said, by the time the door closed, he said, only two of y'all can fit in. And all the other animals, the too clean and unclean, can't even get in. And the bird. Nothing can get in there. You can only fit two of them in the ark. So he said, I got to shrink you down. I got to shrink you down. He said, you're going to have to fast in order to get in the ark. Think about it. I got to make room. Man, you 700 pounds. Man, you're going to have to lose weight. Ain't nowhere in the world I can fit the other animals in. You're selfish. You know, I said, you're a selfish human being because you don't want the other things to get in, because you will give me a commandment to let only these people in. But guess what? For in the old time also, when the proud giants perished, the hope of the world governed by the hand escaped in a weak vessel, and left to all the ages a seed of generations. For Barak is the wood, thereby the righteousness cometh. Right? You see, he's like, so they weren't making it into an idol. You know how he said, I'm going to make it into an idol and worship Yahuwah. No, he said, they used the wood and made it into a ship and put myself in it. That's a totally different art. That's a totally different. I ain't worshiping the ship. Let's go. But that which is made with hands is cursed. Say what? As well it as he that made it, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible, it was called God, a God, because it died. For ungodly, and his unrighteousness are both alike, hateful unto Yahuwah Elohim. That's why he said, I'm going to visit iniquity of those who hate me. You see how people look for the ship today? What do you think they're looking for the ship to do? They're looking to worship it. Take some photos and you know how it is. Capture it. Look at me, post inside of it. See, these are the things that why Yahuwah won't allow people to do stuff. You're like, man, I can't do nothing. He said, nope. Can't even do nothing. Because as soon as you do something, they're going to worship it, and then you know Yahuwah going to curse your life. And that's how it works. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. So that's the whole point. The person who made it and worshiped it is going to perish with it. Therefore, even upon idols, it says, therefore, even upon the idols of the Goyim, the Gentiles, shall there be a visitation. Because in the creature of Elohim, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men. What do you mean stumbling blocks? He's talking about to Yasharal Yehuda and those who join themselves to Yasharal. You're now making stumbling blocks for my people. Why do you think he said, I'm going to cast those people out before you get there? Why do you think he said, tear down everything? I don't want no more stumbling blocks. And a snare to the feet of the unwise. Now you see why when you say, I'm wise. My wisdom, because you're unwise, it's going to be a snare to your regal, your feet, because you're going to go and you're going to have a great time. And you're going to eat of their sacrifices. But that's what happens. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. So, spiritual fornication. So have you done spiritual fornication in your life? You know, people say, I ain't never did finish spiritual fornication. You a liar. Yeah, you did. We all did it. It says that worshiping of idols is what? The beginning of spiritual fornication. And the invention of them is the corruption of life. That's the reason why. Why? For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be after. Shall they be forever. For by the vain cabal of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. For a father afflicted with ultimately mourning, when he hath made an image of his child soon taken away. Now you see why. But guess what? Now honored him as a God. You know, I say, you snap a photo, man, this is my child right here, and it's like 50 years ago. And you have it, and you got it on a picture, burning incense. And now you done turn it into a God because it's now taking up all your time. You ain't even praying to Yahuwah. You ain't even offering no sacrifice of praise anymore. My old relationship, look, it's gone. I remember the day when I had it. My old love. And she already done went with somebody else and gone. And now it become your God. Now you worship in misery. You worship in depression. You worship in your anger and your jealousy and your envy. And it becomes a part of you. Because you can't let it go. You can't let them go. And then when you let them go, they're going to pursue you. I know I was with the other person, but I just want to be with you one night. Just one night. You know how it says, if only for one night. They want that one night with you. That's it. And then they're going to go right back to the other person. See, that's the problem when it comes to this world. That's what idol worship do to you. Verse 17, whose men could not honor in presence because they dwelt afar off. That's going up to, now honored him as a God, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices, right? Thus, in the process of time, an ungodly custom, unrighteous custom, grown strong, was kept as a law, and now it's kept as a law. And graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings, right? It went from human beings. Then they said, man, I'm going to make you the biggest idol in the world, 300 feet tall. burn it and shoot some fireworks next to it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have some jets fly over it too. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do some other stuff too. I'm gonna put it on some water. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have ships go around and blow some fireworks up, blow some things up. Right? It's gonna look real nice. Whose men could not honor in presence, because they dwelt afar off. They took the counterfeit of his visage from far and made an express image of the king whom they honored, to the end that by their wanting forwardness they might flatter him that was absent as if he were present. Isn't that what they do to Yahusha today? They trying to flatter Yahusha with all these statues and all these big giant things of him, right? And then you know what they do? Trying to flatter him like he present. Well, though he ain't here, as if he present, right? Isn't what they do? And then they make you worship the God, the big old statue. Isn't what they do? Then they put him with, he ain't even look like that. And that's what they do. But guess what? Also, to the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant, the most superstition. For he, peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion. And to the multitude allured by the con of the work, took him now for a god, which is a little before was honored, little before was but honored. All right, skipping over to verse 25. So that there reigned in all men. Skipping over the verse, going up to verse 24. They kept neither, let's keep going back to verse 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them, and they erred in their knowledge of Elohim, but whereas they lived in great war of ignorance, those so great plagues called they peace. That's what people do today. Even though you worship idols and you have all these things, he said, man, this is shalom. But in actuality, it's because you worship idols. For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies and made revilings of strange rites, what did they do? They kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled. This is the problem. This is what idol worship do. You no longer honor marriage covenants, and you don't keep them undefiled. But either one slew another traitorously. That's what happens. You start to become a traitor. Traitorously, and you start to slay people, or grieve him by adultery. He said, and grieved him by adultery. That's why Yahuwah was so upset. He said, man, Yahuwah's name, you Kinah. He said, you don't grieve Yahuwah. He said, yeah, because you now have committed adultery. And you go after another Elohim. So that there reigned in all men without exception blood. So please don't be thinking, I worship idols. I don't honor Yahuwah, and I commit adultery. And I'm just going to have peace and shalom on the inside and no demons. It says right here, so that there reigned in all men without exception blood, manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, disquieting of good men, disrespecting good men. That's what that means. Forgetfulness of good terms, defiling of souls, changing of kind, disorder in marriages, adultery, and shameless uncleanness. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. Right? So that's all the part of it. Going back to the slide, bro, this is Midbar, Numbers chapter 5, 11 through 31. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the people of Yasharal, if any man's wife go astray and breaks Amunah with him, or breaks faith, or Ma'al with him, all this is a part of it. But how did this happen? The worshiping of idols. It's all called idolatry, because you start worshiping idols and then you no longer keep marriages undefiled. And you have disorders and all uncleanness. If a man lies with her sexually and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, see, this is the part. He said, he done lied with her sexually. He said, I ain't know about it. It's hidden. I can't see it. He said, I can't see it from her husband, and she is undetected, though she has defiled herself. See, when people think they're going to get away on the day of judgment, you're not. That's why he said, I acknowledge my transgression, my sin. You got to do it now. Because he said, you undetected. Some people say, I'm undetectable. Though she has defiled herself, and there is no witness against her, because we ain't just going around just saying people did stuff without a witness. So you had to literally, like, I got to find out if this is actually true or not. Because you can't just be like, yeah, I know you did this, you did that. I can't say that. He said, I got to have a witness. 2 of them, actually. And if you don't got one, it can't be 1 witness. You got to get 2. So that means the person walk in and see you, you got to immediately have somebody with you. Like, you done found out where the person at, you got to have the other person with you just so you can have another witness saying, hey, you know what, I found my wife committing adultery, and then I had another person with me. And we both saw it. We caught them in the bed together. We caught them in the barn together. We caught them in the car together. We caught them together. Why do you think Shalom say 2 is better than 1? You know what he said? That's why he said that. People think this is not. He says, and there is no witness against her, since she was not taken in the act, she wasn't caught. And if the ruach of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, so the ruach of Kinah or Kana has now come upon this man. So what do you think that woman is doing by doing that? She's provoking this person to jealousy. And jealousy makes you make terrible decisions in life. It do. It makes you make terrible decisions. It'll make you destroy everything. And guess what it says? And if the ruach of Kinah comes upon him, and he is jealous of his wife, though she had not defiled herself. See, these are all a part of what? Lifestyles. Why would a man be jealous of her and she never did anything? Because it's called signals. If you're giving off signals that are showing that you are doing something outside of your husband, then guess what happens? You creating jealousy on the inside of that person. Some people think that's a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's not. It's not. And it says, then the man shall bring his wife to the Kahan and bring the offering required of her, right? If she ain't do nothing. 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour, and he shall put no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, for it is a grain offering of jealousy. You ever ate some bread with nothing on it? That thing take plain. You know, if somebody cooks some food for you and you be like, man, you ain't putting no love in this. He's like, you just ain't putting no seasoning in it. You ain't putting nothing in it. You ever ate it before and it just take plain? He said, that's jealousy. That's what you call jealousy food. That's jealousy food. A grain offering of remembrance, bringing iniquity to remembrance. Why? Because he committed iniquity if he said she ain't do nothing. He's committing iniquity. That's why he says, Barak is the man whom Yahuwah, what? Commits no iniquity, imparts no iniquity, whose transgressions are forgiven. Why? Because that whole point, you can't have jealousy in your heart and your mind, kana for nobody who ain't do nothing. Why would Yahuwah have jealousy for us if we worship another God, another Elohim? Why would he have jealousy for us? We didn't do anything. We've been worshiping you, Yahuwah, everything. So Yahuwah ain't like that. He said, I've been watching you. I can see you. I already know you ain't worshiping another Elohim. But the man, he ain't see her though. But that's the whole point. Because that could be iniquity on you. And a lot of people don't know that. But they also can be caused, the ruach of jealousy, and make a man accuse you based upon inciting him to jealousy and provoking to jealousy. Verse 16, and the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yahuwah, right? So he got to bring that jealousy offering, and then guess what? Now the case got to be solved, because if it don't be solved, it's going to always be conflict. Because jealousy, the ruach of jealousy is now in him. He ain't have no witness, but he still have a feeling in his heart that something going on. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yahuwah. And the Kohen shall take Kudash water in an earthen vessel and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and put it in water. He say, he going to do what? He going to put it in water of the tabernacle. So that the floor of the tabernacle, and put it in water. Right? So this is the book of Exodus. This is the book of Exodus. He says, so why is this important? Because everything's important when it comes to Yahuwah. This is everything important. Right? This is the book of Exodus, Shemuth. Exodus chapter 25. Exodus chapter 25 and verse 1. Shemuth Exodus chapter 25 and verse 1. And Yahuwah said to Mashah, speak to the people of Yasharal that they take for me a contribution. Right, skipping over to verse 4. Actually, let's just keep going. For every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive a contribution from me. And this is the contribution that you shall receive from them: gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, scarlet yarn, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skin, goat skin, acacia wood, oil for the lamps, spices, and anointing oil for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and stones for setting up for the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in the midst, exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and all its furniture. So shall you make it. So he said, I'm going to make it this way. And he said, why is he making it this way? Right, skipping up, going to Exodus chapter 26. Shemuth Exodus chapter 26 in verse 5. It says, 50 loops you shall make on one curtain, and 50 loops you shall make on the edge of the curtain. That is in the second set. The loops shall be opposite one another, and you shall make 50 clasps of gold and a couple of curtains, one to the other with clasps, so that the tabernacle may be a single whole. And you shall also make curtains of goat skin, goat hair, for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains shall you make it. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of the curtains 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains, and they say the 11 curtains shall be the same size. He says, so why is this important? Skipping over to verse 12. And the part that remains of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains shall hang over the back of the tabernacle. And the extra that remains in the length of the curtains, the cubits on one side and the cubit on the other side, shall hang over the side of the tabernacle, on this side and that side, to cover it. So what does it got to do anything? And you shall make the tent a covering tanned ram skin, and a covering of goat on top, and shall make the upright frames of the tabernacle of acacia wood. Shittim wood. Right? 10 cubits shall be the length of its frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth. There shall be tenons in each frame for the fitting together, for you shall do all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames of the tabernacle 20 frames to the south, and 40 bases of silver. You shall make under the 20 frames 2 bases under one frame for its tenons, and 2 bases the next frame of its tenons. He said, why is this important? Because everything that it was made out of had a purpose. So he said, I'm going to make you drink up of this piece of this tabernacle that I made. Because, the tabernacle was the most Chdsh place. That's where Yahuwah came and they met with Yahuwah at. So he said, I'm going to make you eat some of that place where Yahuwah dwells at. I'm going to make you eat some of it where Yahuwah dwells at. He says, why is it important? Because everything that happens for a reason, right? This is Yuchanan chapter 6, 65. Yuchanan chapter 6, 65. Yuchanan chapter 6 and 60. And when many of the disciples heard it, they said, this is hard saying. Going over to verse 54. 6:54. Yuchanan 6:52. Yahudim disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us flesh to eat? So Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat my flesh and eat my flesh of the son of Yahuwah and drink the blood, or son of Adam, and drink the blood, you have no life in you. Whosoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life. And I'll raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Whosoever feeds on my flesh and drink my blood abides in me, and I in him. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of Father, so whosoever feeds on me, he also will live because of me. He said, you feed on me, you're going to live. Why? Because if you understand it, you'll understand what he meant by that, right? So this is the book of right, so this is the book of Yuchanan. It's Matthew. I think it's Matthew. Actually, Yuchanan chapter 10. Yuchanan chapter 10, verse 35. Yuchanan John chapter 10, verse 35. Yuchanan 10 and 35. If he called them gods in whom the word of your Elohim came, and the scripture cannot be broken, do you say of him, the Father consecrated and sent into the world, you are blaspheming? He says, do you say of him, whom the Father consecrated and sent into the world, you are blaspheming? Because I said, I am the son of Yahuwah, son of Elohim. If I am not doing the works of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may know and understand that the Father is in me, and I am in the Father, Yahuwah. Going back to in the book of Numbers chapter 5, book of Numbers chapter 5, verse 16. Numbers chapter 5, verse 16. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yahuwah. That's what Yahuwah said. He said, if I do the works of the Father, know that the Father is in me, and I'm in him. So he's bringing her before Yahuwah. Let's see what happens. And the priest shall take the Qhdsh water in the earthen vessel and take some of the dust that is upon the floor of the tabernacle and put it in water. And the Kohen shall set the woman before Yahuwah and unbind the hair of the woman's head and place in her hands the grain offering of remembrance. Right? These mean the remembrance. We just talked about Zakar. Amazingly, he put man as Zakar when he said male and female. He said, I want to see if you can remember this. Zakar, which is the grain offering of jealousy. He said, so they're going to put it before her. And in his hands, the priest shall have the water of bitterness that brings the curse. He said, you're going to have the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Then the priest shall make her take an oath. If I do the works of my Father, Yahuwah, know that the Father is in me, and I in him. So he bringing the curse to her. The water that, he said, bring it, he said, and you get what it says. Go on to verse 19. Then the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness, because you worship idols, because that's what we just read in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, or book of Wisdom. and you were under your husband's authority, right? While you were under your husband's authority, so this is the whole point. He said, while you were under your husband's authority. There is a difference when you're not under your husband's authority. Right, so this is the book of 1 Corinthians. It's the book of, right. First Corinthians. Actually, yeah, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Or 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 9. 7 and verse 10. To the married I give this charge, not I, but Yahuwah. They put it in parentheses, right? So I'm going to read it out without parentheses. To the married I give this charge. The wife should not separate from her husband. Why? That's leaving your husband's authority. He said you shouldn't do it. Yeah, there's a reason why he says this. You know, people say, I'm going to separate from my husband. Okay. But it says, and the husband should not divorce his wife, right? That's without the parentheses. That's just straightforward, to the point, to your face. Don't leave authority and don't put anybody away. If you read it with the parentheses, it gives you what? But if she does, read it with the parentheses. To the married, I give this charge. Not I, but Yahuwah. Right? So they added that. The wife should not separate from her husband. That should be true, right? She shouldn't, because nobody should leave Yahuwah at all. But if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. That's in parentheses too. That's called adding. I added that, whomever did it. But that just gives you a license to do whatever you want now. It does. It puts a doubt. It puts a wavering in your heart and your mind. It creates that. It really does. It creates a wavering. You're not like, you're staggering at a moment. You're staggering at belief. And the husband should not divorce his wife, right? So why is this important? Going back to Numbers chapter 5, verse 19. Then the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness while you are under your husband's authority, be free from this water of bitterness and brings the curse. He says, so if you say you left and you ain't do nothing, and he said, while you was in your husband's authority, right? You say you was in your husband's authority, right? And you didn't do anything. Let's see. We'll see what happens. But if you have gone astray, though you are under your husband's authority, and you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then let the Kahan make the woman take the oath of the curse and say to the woman, Yahuwah make you a curse and an oath among your people, when Yahuwah makes your thigh fall away and your body swell. May this water that brings the curse to pass in your bowels and make your wounds swell and your thigh fall away. Or nafal, and the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. He said, which means the woman has to agree with it. And if the woman says, Amen, Amen, just like who just said, if I do the works of my Father, just know that the Father's in me and I in him. Which means when she does this, that means she hasn't left you. She hasn't departed from the husband's authority. And she's willing to say, Amen, Amen, which means that she agrees with it, to declare herself not guilty. for the things that her husband is accusing her for, because the ruach of jealousy is on his heart. If she really actually agrees. But he said that this is the water of bitterness, right? He said, so how do you know, right? So this is the book of, how do you know this, right? He said it's the water of bitterness, right? Right, so this is the book of, this is the book of Proverbs. Mostly Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 1. Mostly Proverbs chapter 5 verse 1. It says, my son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep direction and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drips honey. It's sweet. For her speech is smoother than oil. It's real sweet. Why? Because when you start to act like this, then your speech changes. Because you have to acquire something from that person. Nobody sells something to somebody in a mean and derogatory way. No, everybody gonna sell you something in their most smoothest voice to get you to buy it. That's the only reason they come to you like that. But it says, but in the end, she is bitter as wormwood. Why? Because she's gonna have to take that. She in her husband's authority, and she talking to you. And it's sweet too, but she trying to get something from you, and it's bitter just like wormwood. You know what happens after that? Sharp as a two-edged sword. It's just like the bar, because you know what happens when you start to do these things. It's like a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her regard. Her feet, for the making of idols, brings you to your destruction. And guess what? Her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. She don't understand what it's like to ponder the path of life, to go confess to her husband, I have these desires in my heart towards another man. Because that's the path of life. The path of life is to confess your sins. That is the path of life. The path of death is to conceal it. Before you have what? You actually commit the act. Physically. Because when you do it before, it's called precognition, pre-crime. And you don't do it because you confessed it, and you're not concealing it. She don't ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. She say, because you blind, because you concealing it, and now Satan, his poison is on the inside of you. And now you don't even know that you are gone. He said, now, O sons, listen to me, and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her. And do not go near the door of her house. I mean, we just talked about the door. I said, you leave the door open. He said, don't go to the door of the house. Close the doors of your mind. Guess what happens? You know what happens after that? Lest you give your honor to others and your years to mercilessness. Let strangers take the fill of your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. He said they're going to take everything you got. Because he that committed adultery with a woman shall not go unpunished. They're going to take everything you got. And guess what? And at the end of your life, you groan when your flesh and body are consumed. Huh? And you say, how I hated discipline. You're going to hit your head. Man, had I just not did that. And my heart despised reproof. I didn't want to get rebuked. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers. That's the whole point. You didn't do it. Or incline my ear to my instructors. I am on the brink of utter ruin in the assembled Aydah. Look what it says, 15. Drink water from your own cistern. You know what I'm saying? He said, drink the water from your own cistern. You know what this woman is? We're reading this right now. She in the authority of her husband, right? But the husband like, man, I got a feeling you've been with somebody else. And he want to drink from the water of his own cistern. But the woman has to agree, to take the cup of jealousy and the offering and to risk being discovered. Because what woman going to confess to being an adulteress? Nobody's going to confess to being an adulteress. Nobody has done it. I'm an adulteress. Did Bathsheba do that? I'm an adulteress. No. Did David do it? No. Unless who will appear into a dream and stop you before you do it. Like you do Abraham. But that's other than that. You don't read what people actually do that. They're like, man, that's death. I will never confess that. I know. Because that's going to be death to you. I mean, everything in your life gone. Even your husband, everything. Your providing, everything gone. That man going to get so hot. You have no idea. It's going to be, I don't know. But it's just a part of it. Death. That man going to be like, man, I'm on a deathbed. Especially if that man has children. Woo. And he's like, man, I gotta spend. You know how much money that stuff costs today? And he might come after you. I spent 15 years doing all this, and you gonna do that? No. That's the end of your life. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. See, this is why Shaul said, let every man have his own wife and own husband. This is why he said that. And she have her own husband. You have your own stuff. Get your own stuff. Because if you don't get your own stuff, you're going to want somebody else's stuff. That's the whole point of this whole thing. That's why covetousness is a big thing. That's why it's, the fourth commandment, right? It's the last commandment, right? But at the same time, this is all a part of it. It says, should your springs be scattered abroad? He said, you want your springs scattered abroad? He said, you want all these people with your spring? Think about it. Everybody drink from your spring, your Isha. Everybody in my spring? I'm the only one who go there spring. You ever had a spring in your yard or like a fountain? You're like, man, that's my own fountain. Nobody drink out of that water fountain or that water fountain, right? That's what they say. Right? Streams of water in the street? Should I put my streams of water in the street? Ain't nobody else should be. Why I got my streams of water out there? Let them be for yourself alone. He said, that's my stuff. And not for strangers with you. He said, what? Not for the strangers with you. Now you see why he cast out them strangers. He said, why he got all them strangers out of the land? He said, I'm a jealous all he can That bride right there, that woman who worshiped me and me only, he said, that's for me. That's not for you. You other people. He cast them nations out of there. Because Yahuwah real jealous, Kina. You don't want to mess with Yahuwah when it comes to this stuff. And it says, let them be alone for yourself and no strangers with you. I see why he kicked them out. For let your fountain be Barak and rejoice in the wife of your youth. And I see why Yahuwah was the way he is. And he wanted her, while he was Isha, to rejoice that he is her Elohim. That's the whole point. I can't have no other people around getting all my honor. She's going to end up serving you. Matter of fact, she's going to end up serving you a little bit more than what she was supposed to serve you too. And that's what's going to happen. You serving that person a lot more than you serving me. And then Yahuwah's going to be like, I'm jealous. Kina. And then some women do it on purpose. And you don't want to do that to Yahuwah on purpose. You're like, I'm finna provoke Yahuwah to jealousy. You go ahead and you do that if you want to. You're going to find out what jealousy look like. Let them be for yourself alone and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be Barak and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer and a grateful roe. Let her breast fill you at all times with the light. And now you see where the fountain at. You better leave my fountains alone. He said, so what does this got to do with anything? This got a lot to do with a lot of stuff that people don't understand. He said, let it be for you and you alone. be intoxicated always in her love. See, to be intoxicated with her love, it can't be bitterness inside of that wine. Because if there's bitterness inside of the wine, ain't going to be no joy in that fountain. Ain't going to be no joy in it. It's going to be death. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son? He said, so get you with a forbidden woman, a married woman. Why? Why would you be intoxicated with a woman that's already married? Why would you let her speak her sweet words to you and give you that sweet wine, and then now you all messed up in your mind, and then now you going after her, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress, because she used her words to get you to come to her. That's the whole point of it. How is she going to get you? She's going to use her words, her sweet words. And that sweet wine going to have you enjoy and thinking that you're going to do something in secret. And you know what happens after that? For a man's ways are before the eyes of Yahuwah. And he ponders all his paths. Didn't we just read that? He's watching. And that's the whole point. Going back to Numbers chapter 5 and verse 20. But if you Numbers chapter 5 verse 20. But if you have gone astray, though you are under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then let the Kohanim make the woman take an oath of the curse, and say to the woman, Yahuwah makes a curse and an oath among your people, when Yahuwah makes your thigh fall away, and your body swell. May this water bring the curse to pass into your bowels, and make your wound swell, and your thigh fall away in the fall. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. Right? So all that's a part of it. So that word for go astray, he said, that word for go astray says, speak to the people of Yashua. If a man's wife goes astray, that word for go astray is satah. It means turn aside, to deviate, it says deviate from duty, to decline, to go aside, to turn or decline, right? So that means to turn aside. If you go astray and breaks amuna, right? So that word for breaks amuna is ma'al. Breaks faith. It breaks faith. That word is ma'al, breaks faith. It means to he said if a wife goes astray, and ma'al, it means treacherously transgress. Commit trespass unfaithfully against man, against Yahuwah, against devoted things, against the husband, to cover up. It says she goes astray to cover up, to act covertly, transgressly, to transgress. So this is how one can make someone get jealous or kina. Covertly, just secretly or stealthily, or in a hidden, concealed manner, without attracting attention, often to avoid being declared, recognized, or discovered. So when a woman does that, that's going to put things inside the Ish's mind and make him kina. And the ruach of kina going to come upon him. And then it's going to be as if you are doing something when you're doing something secretly or covertly. That's the same thing when Abigail left. She left and she ain't tell nobody. You know how when she left to go meet Dawid, and Dawid was coming to kill, but she found out from the people that he was coming to kill Nabal, and then she ran off and ain't tell nobody and went to go stop him from killing. But she had witnesses to say that they knew that she went to go and see him. Because she asked and she knew. Now she ain't asked and she ain't knew, and she just went to go meet Dawid, and he had no reason to. He's like, what you going to meet him for? And then it's going to be like, oh, you covertly, what you doing? But at the same time, leaving without, it's covert, like she did it. But then you start doing covert things to do something evil. That's a whole nother subject. And then you're going to have that man kina, like, that's a whole nother subject. But that's the whole point. recognize or discover. So when you start doing that, it's going to make the man kina. It's going to. Right? Right, going, that verse for sexually says, if a man lies with her sexually, right? So that word for sexually is skaba. Shakaba. Shakaba, right? It means to act in lying or layer of coding. Act in lying, sexual relations. Lying down carnally, copulation, laying seed. That's all it is. You laying seed. It says, if a man lies with her sexually, I mean, you shakaba, you laying seed inside of that person. See, they didn't have condoms back in the day. Back in the day, you were doing stuff, they gonna find out. Either you laying seed, or you gonna have a baby, or something gonna happen to you. It was none of this, what you see today. It's undetectable. It's stealthy now, real stealthy. But at the same time, he said, how you gonna detect it? How in the world? How you gonna know? Right, so that word, it says that word, if a man lies, that word for lies is shakab. If a man lies with her sexually, that word for lies is shakab. It means to lie down, sexual relations, or sexual connection. You know, people say, I got a connection, but that connection, sexual connection, is what connects you to that person. It also means to lodge. I mean, I'm gonna go meet you stealthy at a hotel, stealthy in the parking lot, stealthy in a car, stealthy in a place that nobody knows about, our secret place that nobody knows. It also means to relax, to rest. That's the whole point. It also means to be laying. It also lie down, lodge, to ravish, right? He said you got to check credit card statements. He said all this stuff, right? Lodging, ravish, right? All these are a part, right, of a stealthy type of person, covertly. And then it provokes things inside of people's houses and life. It provokes things to Yahuwah as well. Right, so and it says, and if the ruach of jealousy comes over him, right? So after all that stealth and all that stuff that one has done, and then the ruach of jealousy comes upon him, right? That word for jealousy is kina, kuf, nun, aleph, and ha. It means zeal, jealousy, jealous disposition of husband. He's like, man, you look jealous, ain't you? Or kina, look at your face. He's like, man, you got a jealous disposition. Sexual passions, men of Allahim. They say man against adversaries, right? But it also means ardor of anger, right? It's going to cause anger. It's going to cause fits of anger. You know, in Colossians chapter 3, it tells us to put away all anger and fits of anger. It's going to cause fits of anger. It's also jealousy resulting in the wrath of Allahim. Then you're going to have your wrath of a Yahuwah on now. Jealousy and envy. These are all a part of what it causes. It says and if the ruach of kina comes over him, and he is kina without the other letter, it's kuf nun aleph. Because that word is the same word you seen in kina when Yahuwah gets jealous. And he is kina of his wife. When he gets kina of his wife, that means Yahuwah, he has Yahuwah's jealousy on him now. Now Yahuwah's jealousy on him. First he was kina. The ruach kina came on, then he started getting Yahuwah's type of jealousy. And that's the whole nother, and when you start getting Yahuwah's jealousy, then it becomes, let's go and take the cup of jealousy in the sight of Yahuwah and eat it and drink it and bound yourself to a curse. That's when you start to take it to the next part of it when you go to Yahuwah. When you get kina, ruach kina, that's anger. Right? You really are feeling a certain way. When you just want to take it to Yahuwah, it's kina. That's when Yahuwah starts getting involved. That's why she had to go take it to the Kohanim, and then they had to do a cup of jealousy offering. And guess what? That word kinah means to be envious, to be zealous, right? He's zealous for Yahuwah now. He's like, man, I'm finna find this thing out. I gotta get this ruach of jealousy out of me. It'd be envious, right? To incite to jealous anger, right? Anger is now presented inside. He said, man, how you get a man jealous? Just go ahead and just go covertly and go sleep with somebody or go have sexual relations with somebody. Let him lay seed inside of you, inside of a covert place that he know nothing about. You gonna have that person so angry, especially if he know about it. Now say if he know about it for 10, 15, 16 years, that man gonna be so upset. He gonna be an angry person. You be like, man, you angry all the time, jealous. You have a fit of anger every now and then. What's that got to do with anything? That's how Yahuwah is. The anger of Yahuwah done burned hot against you. And he'd be like, man, what just happened? He just wiped out a whole city. And guess what? Anger, to cause jealousy. That's what happens when you provoke someone to jealousy. By acting that way. It makes thoughts come to your mind. That's what Satan uses it. Satan uses Shaitan. We are not ignorant of Shaitan's devices, but don't provoke Shaitan to actually jump inside of your husband, or to jump inside other people, or to jump inside your Isha. Right? You have to comfort that individual. If you don't comfort that individual and give reassurance, it creates kinah. And then what happens when you get kinah? To zealous, man, you be quoting scripture all over the place, right? Everybody be throwing Bible out, right? They say Torah, right? Everybody want to quote, this is what it said in the book, you better, right? You start going crazy because now the ruach of jealousy and zealous for Yahuwah now coming out. And then now you're overreacting to something that may not even be. And then it becomes a part of your life. And then it takes over your time. And then it takes over your mind. And then Satan, Shaitan, gets upset. And then you know what happens after that? You start spending time trying to figure out what's going on. Right, so that word for 21, it says right here, verse 21. And it says, and let the priest, let's make the woman take an oath of a curse and say to the woman, Yahuwah make you a curse and an oath among your people. And when Yahuwah makes your thigh fall away and your body swell, may this water that brings the curse pass into your bowels and make the wound swell and your thigh fall away. Right, the word for thigh is yarek. Yarek. It means the thigh, the loin, base. Right, we're talking about your loins. He said, make your loins rot or fall away. To make your thigh rot, it falls away. What do you mean by falling away? Outside of thigh, it says the loins as the seat of procreative power. He said, let it all rot. And it says to be soft. He said, what happens when he says to be soft? He said you go from a soft state to a hard state. To be soft, the thigh or fleshly softness, generative part. Right? Of course you know that. Shank, flank, loins. He said, let your loins fall away. And he's going to go from being soft, your thigh go from being soft to hard. Your loins go from being soft to hard. All this is all part of it. It becomes a part of you. Right? Right, so that word for bowels, it's in verse 22. And may this water bring the curse to pass in your bowels. He says, so how is this important, right? So this is the book of Yeshayahu. We're going to get to that. Isaiah chapter 55. Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 10. Yeshayahu 55 and 10. For as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, and do not return there, but water the earth. He said, man, drink this water. All you got to do is drink this water. I assure you, your thigh will fall away, and your bowels and your womb will swell, if you have anything on the inside. And it says, for as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so that the bar be that goes, it says, For as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, and do not return but water the earth, making it bring forth sprout, and giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my bar be that goes out of my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purposed, and shall succeed for which I sent it. That's why the woman had to repeat what the priest said. He said, if she say, I mean, that means she agreed to it. If she agreed to it, then that means that she takes it inside of her, she received it. And if she receives it, then guess what? It'll prove that she is not what the other person is saying. He said it should prove it. Right, it's the book of Yuchanan, chapter 7, verse 37. John, chapter 7, verse 37. He said it should prove it. John, chapter 7, verse 37. And on the last day of the feast, the great day, Yahusha stood up and cried out, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Why do you think the woman got to come to the temple tabernacle of Yahuwah? Why do you think she had to come there and drink? Because when she went there to drink, then guess what happened? He said, if you ain't got nothing, then ain't nothing going to happen to you. But guess what? Whoever believes in me, as the scripture said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. He said, all you got to do is drink this water right here. All you got to do is drink this water with this piece of the tabernacle inside of it, from the floor of it. It's just a part of the floor I put inside of the water. And all you got to do is eat my flesh and drink my blood. And guess what? We'll see if you have life on the inside and see if you confess your sins afterwards. That's the whole point. Now this he said about the Ruach. See, this is all about the Ruach. You see, he's talking about Ruach, spiritual fornication, because the devising of idols created it all anyway. Idolatry created this whole situation. That's the only reason it's here, because you worship idols. Whom those who believed in him were to receive. For as yet the Ruach had not yet been given, but because Yahusha had not yet been kabod. Right, going back to the slide, it says, may this water that brings the curse to pass in your bowels, may your wounds swell in your thyroid. That word for bowels is meyah. It means inward parts. He says that inward parts, digestive organs. Inward parts, he said, man, that's your bowels. Organs of procreation, place of emotions and distress and love. Your inward part, that's all in there. Your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, your heart, your mind, your nervous system, everything in your loins, your yard, right? All that. Eternal belly. Your shore, your healing to your shore. We talk about don't lean to your own understanding. It be healing to your flesh, your shore, and refreshment to your bones. Why? It also means intestine, stomach, uterus, belly, wound, abdomen, right? That's what this is all about. He said it's going to bring that inside of you. He said it's going to bring it out. It's going to come to pass in your bowels. He said, I ain't got to do nothing. You ingesting the bar. He said it's going to come to pass in your internal organs. The curse. Right, the word for thigh, and what it says, that word for swell, it says to make your wound swell. It said make your wound swell. That word for swell is sabah. It means to swell. It means also it's of an adulterous belly. He said the adulteress has a certain type of belly it had. An adulterous stomach. He said an adulterous stomach? What does that got to do with anything? To cause to swell, the adulterous belly. Right? Some people got an adulterous. He said, you got an adulterous belly. He said it swells up. After they hit the bar, it swells up. It's called an adulterous belly. He said, what? Yeah. And a mass or a grow turgid, especially a ray and army against. It says a fight or swell. It means turgid. Turgid describes something that is swollen, bloated, disintended, typically by fluids. That means like swelling. You know how you swell and you hit your head, hit your leg and your arm, and your arm start to swell after you hit it too hard? Well, that's what happens to the bowels of the stomach and the organs, right? You know how when people have intercourse, right? People don't know, but yeah, he said your inner organs start to swell. You ever got in an accident? and you hit a car so hard, boom, and you start going all tossing all over the place, you have an internal bleeding, internal swelling of your organs. Well, that's exactly what it's like. Yahuwah's like, that's how I know. He said, your stomach gonna swell. Because that guilt ain't gonna be able to hide itself. He said, I'm gonna hit every single organ, because that's where it all hides at. I am Yahuwah who judges what? He judges your liver and your kidneys, right? He judges these things. And people say, why? That's where it hides at. That's where it hides at, right? This is the book of Proverbs. Proverbs. That's how it works. This is the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs, chapter 7. The book of Shaly'shy Proverbs, chapter 7, and verse 19. Shaly'shy Proverbs, chapter 7, verse 19. Shaly'shy Proverbs, chapter 7, verse 19. This came to my mind. For my husband is not at home, and he is gone on a long journey. You know how it is. He ain't here. So he ain't gonna be able to. I can see I'm covert. Ain't nobody gonna know. Nobody gonna know. He took a bag of money with him, and at a full moon, he would come home. He said, he's going to be right in front of my face eventually, but right now, it's a dark moon. He ain't here. He going to wander around eventually. One, wax full moon. He'll be right here in my face. With much seductive speech, she persuades him. With her smooth talk, she compels him. He said, speak to her smooth things, not but deceit. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's what these women do. Naba deceit. Get thee out of the way. Get out of the path. Isn't that what they say? That's what she's doing right here. Isn't what Yeshayahu said? Get out of the path. All at once he follows her. He said, don't go in her house. Don't go to her door. As an ox goes to the slaughter, and a stag caught in fast. Why? Because he's going to eat you. I'm going to eat you up. Till an arrow pierces its liver. He say, until Yahuwah make your organs swell. I'm going to pierce your liver and your kidneys and your internal organs. Your filtering, things that are supposed to filter out disease out of your body. You know how liver and kidneys filter out diseases and filter out things in your body? Well, I'm going to make them swell and make them non-functional. And you're going to have so many things going on with your body. As a bird rushes into a snare, he does not know it will cost him his life. See? Barak is the man whom Yahuwah does not impart no iniquity, whose sins are covered. Because his death and life is in the power of the tongue. I confess my sins. I did not conceal my sins. And now, O sons, listen to me. Be attentive to my word in my mouth. Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. And do not go astray into her paths, right? It's all a part of it. Make your wound swell and your thigh rot, right? That word for swell it means to what? To amass, to grow turgid, right? Turgid describes something that is swollen, bloated, that's intended typically by fluids, both internally and swollen tissues of plants full of water. He's like, man, you full of water. Plants full of water. And metaphorically, to describe overly pompous, bloated, or inflated. He's like, man, it is inflated. Right? And that's the whole point. You're going to be bloated. Right? You know what happens when he says it becomes when you ingest it, it makes all your organs and your things reveal what you are. He give you the adulterous belly. Verse 23, this Midbar, Numbers continue on. Midbar chapter 5, verse 23. Then the Kohen shall write these curses in a book and wash them off into the water of bitterness. You agree to it? I mean. Write it in the book. And then what? Wash off into the water of bitterness. And he shall make the woman drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse. He said, you gonna drink that? It brings the curse. And the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain. It's gonna do what? It's gonna cause bitter pain. Why is that important? This is the book of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. It's going to cause bitter pain. This is the book of Genesis chapter 3 verse 1. Now that Nakash was craftier than any other beast of the field that Yahuwah Elohim had made. He's like, I'll make you drink this cup of bitterness. Now you saying you ain't do nothing now. He said, you ain't do nothing, right? We ain't do nothing. We'll see. And he said to the woman, did Elohim actually say, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? Let me just read that. A tree full of water. He said, man, your stomach gonna swell. Man, it's gonna be just like a tree full of water. And guess what? You should not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but Elohim said, you shall not eat of it, of its fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. He said, man, don't you even touch it. Why? My son, don't go on the way of her paths, for the end of her is death. If you do, you touch it, you don't know it's going to cost you your life, though. You touch it, it's going to cost you your life. That's a forbidden woman. He said forbidden, yeah. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. Man, ain't nothing going to happen to you. If you touch that woman, man, you go be with her, man, ain't nothing going to happen to you. That's what the Nakash do. For Elohim knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. She don't even know. We just read that. We just read in the book of Proverbs, in the book of Psalms. He said she don't even know that's her past. She don't even know she went off her past. She don't even ponder her way. She don't even ponder the way of life. She don't even haggah or think about the way of life. And guess what? So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a light to the eyes, and the tree was the one to be desired to make one wise, you agree to this thing? I mean, then no curse shall come upon you, right? No curse shall come upon you, right? If you ain't do nothing. She took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. He's like, she was with him too. Matter of fact, once she went on ahead and got defiled by the serpent, he went on ahead and got defiled by the serpent. You know what the man did? He was with her too, so it wasn't concealed from him. You know how it wasn't concealed from him that she was with him. Ruach of jealousy can't come upon Adam right here. Because you know why? Because she was already defiled, right? And guess what? Ruach of jealousy ain't come upon him though. He went on ahead and participated with him. Because she was already defiled, but he was sitting there and he like, I'm going to eat some too. After she been defiled. And you know what happens when you do that? I'm going to show you what happened. Then the eyes of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. He said, now you done participated in her adulterous act by doing and laying with her after she'd been defiled. You participating in her adulterous act. You might as well just go. He said, let your cistern, let it be for you and you alone. Didn't we just read that? And the spring, let it be for your springs. You the only one that's supposed to delight in her breast and anything. So if you let somebody else do it and then you go inside, after that, you might as well just do an orgy. You might as well just go and do an orgy. Because in righteousness, tzedakah, it's like, it don't work like that. You might as well go participate and you have an orgy. Because she already defiled. But guess what? And they heard the sound of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves in the presence of Yahuwah. Oh, we ain't do nothing. You sure you're going to drink the cup of this cup of jealousy? This kinah? You going to drink of this cup? He said, if it don't, let your thigh rot. Let your thigh fall away and your belly swell. Let's go over to, skipping over to verse 10. And he said, I had heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I command you not to eat? The man said, the woman you gave me to be with me, she gave me of the fruit of the tree and I ate. Then Yahuwah said to the woman, what is this that you have done? And the woman said, the serpent deceived me, and the Chdsh deceived me, and I ate. He said, the serpent deceived me, and I had committed adultery. Because you know he sounded the Chdsh is? And the Chdsh like that, he like that adulterous woman that, yeah, you know, you ain't gonna surely die if you come on here in here. That's in the Chdsh. He deceived me. Guess what? And Yahuwah said to the serpent, Nakash, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock. Now you see why you don't want to participate with a curse. Because she cursed. Well, the Nakash is cursed. That's what the adulterous woman is. She a Nakash and she cursed now. So if you go in here and lay with the curse, what happened to you? You cursed too. You too. That's why he told his son, don't go near her door. Don't go near her door. Don't go near the Nakash door. Cool. Because the Cool go ahead and go in the Nakash door, and next you know, she in the bed with him. Yep. And Yahuwah said to Nakash, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field, and your belly you shall go, and thus you shall eat all the days of your life. Isn't that what they took from the tabernacle? He's going to take some of the dust of the ground of the tabernacle and put it in a bottle of water, put it in some water, and you drink it. You Nakash. If you ain't a Nakash, Shaly'shy, you know your belly shouldn't swell and your thigh shouldn't ride. And it says, in the dust you shall eat all the days of your life, and I will put enmity between you and the woman. He said, I will put hatred. That's why people, when they commit adultery, they start hating, having all this hatred and fighting. You ever want? He said, why they be having all this hatred and fight after they commit adultery? Because that's what happens. You put enmity between your seed and her seed. You'll start hating the person you committed adultery with. Now you start hating your husband, and then you start despising the person you committed adultery with. And then that person you despise, you commit adultery with, gonna start hating you because you mess around and you made them, got them entangled in your love life. That's his seed. Remember, he said, what is it? What is sexual relation? Shakabah. Sowing seed. Because once he put that seed inside of you, then it becomes an enmity fight. It becomes a fight. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. That's the whole point. Especially if two people are married. Say the man was married to another woman, and then she was married, and then they sleep around. And they're going to be fighting all the time. And guess what? And he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And to the woman he said, I ain't do nothing. I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. Oh, there we go. I didn't do anything. I didn't go outside of Yahuwah and worship no idols. Isn't that what they just did? They went outside Yahuwah's covenant, bereaved, and they worship idols. I didn't go commit adultery against Yahuwah's spiritual fornication. Yes, you did. And guess what happens after that? And in pain, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing, and in pain you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall mashal over you. And to Adam he said, because you listen to the voice of your wife. I didn't commit no adultery. I didn't sleep with my body. I'm not defiled. And have eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat of it. Cursed are you from the ground because of you. He said, cursed. In pain you shall eat all the days of your life. So you get pain too? Oh, so y'all both got the cup of jealousy. And both of y'all guilty. But what's the whole point of this whole thing? Going back to verse 10. 3 and 10. And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden and was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten the tree of the knowledge I command you not to eat? The man said, what did the man say? Because it had to, we just read it in the book of Numbers 5, if the woman went to did something, but she wasn't defiled, the man would what? Be guilty of sin. But if she did, then guess what? She got to take the cup of jealousy. But then now you see here, the woman you gave me to be with me, she gave me of the fruit of the tree and I ate. And then he blamed her. See, after you transgress, now you want to be zealous for Yahuwah after that. You know how it is. I want to be zealous for Yahuwah and start quoting scriptures, right? But in actuality, you can't be jealous of Yahuwah. You can't be Yahuwah's jealousy. But he said in pain, right? Going back to Numbers chapter 5 and verse 24. As he finishes up. And he shall make the woman drink the water of her and cause bitter pain. And the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy out of the woman's hand and shall weigh the grain offering before Yahuwah and bring it to the altar. And the Kohen shall take a handful of grain offering in its memorial portion and burn it on the altar, and afterwards shall make the woman drink the water. Drink the water, right? And when he has made her drink the water, then if she has devoured herself and has broken a munah with her husband, or ma'al, done treacherously, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain. That's what Yahuwah's judgment is. His judgment is pain. It's a bone. That's the very pain that Adam and Kuah got. His judgment is pain. And guess what? And it says, and when he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has broken a munah with her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause pain. And her wound shall swell, her organs, and her thigh shall fall away. So nafal, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. You know what he said in the Nakash? Curse shall you be. On thy belly thou shalt go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. In pain you shall bring forth children, and in pain you shall till the ground. Because Yahuwah's judgment is just like that. And her thighs shall fall away, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive children. Then ain't nothing going to happen to her belly, her ovaries, and her body. Nothing going to happen to her childbearing skills. Nothing going to happen. Because once your thigh rot, and your belly swell, and your organs start to go dysfunction, and your ovaries and everything in your body start, guess what? You ain't going to have no children. Because you're going to destroy your whole internal organs, and he's going to destroy your reproductive power. But how in the world did all this happen? And how in the world did all this get canceled out? And it says, this is the law of the case of jealousy. When a wife who is under her husband's authority goes astray and defiles herself, and when the ruach of jealousy comes over, the priest shall carry out her all this law. The man shall be free. It says, go to verse 30. Or when the woman ruach of jealousy comes over a man, and he is jealous of his wife. Because most of the time that's what's going to happen. He said, why a man jealous and envious? Why he got angry? Because of that. That's where it comes from. He said, why he angry sometimes? That's because of that. Then he shall set the woman before Yahuwah, and the priest shall carry out for her all this law. The man shall be free from iniquity. See, when you start falsely accusing, you start saying things you can't. It's called iniquity. You can put iniquity on yourself just by even just having the ruach of jealousy. That's why the ruach of jealousy can't be. That's why jealousy, when it come in, it's gonna put iniquity on you when you start saying things out of your mouth. You make brash decisions. It make you say things. That's what happens. But if the one person is provoking the person to jealousy and making him think this way, and it's not necessarily the case to manipulate, it becomes this man gonna get iniquity on his life. He gonna have iniquity in his heart. And you know what happens when a man, each the head has iniquity, he gonna have things destroyed in his life. He's gonna have things destroyed in his life. But the woman shall bear her iniquity. That's the whole point. He said, you said you're gonna bear yours though, if it's true. So how is this important, right? This is the book of Yuchanan chapter 18 verse 1. Yuchanan chapter 18. Yuchanan chapter 18 and verse 1. Yuchanan chapter 18 and verse 1. Actually 19 and 28. 19 and 28. And after this, Yahusha, knowing all that was finished, said, to fulfill the scripture, I thirst, a jar of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of sour wine in a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. And when Yahusha had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished, and he bowed his head and gave it the ruach. Why? Because that's a cup of jealousy. That's a cup of jealousy. How was David, and Bathsheba forgiven? They committed adultery, and she was caught. And matter of fact, even the soldiers and people around knew that it was Uriah's wife. And David laid with her, and she conceived seed. Wasn't no cup of jealousy around because Uriah ain't know about it. But being that he ain't know about it because he ain't go in and have copulation with her to produce, how you say, for a man not to know he's the father of a child. Because that's what women do. They'll commit adultery and then they'll have you sleep with them, and then you be thinking you the father of the child and you not. That's why David wanted him to sleep with him. But then at the same time, Yahuwah found him out though. But his son had to die. So why her thought ain't right? She ain't take the cup of jealousy. Somebody else did it for her. Her thought should have rotted. And she shouldn't be able to conceive seed after that. It was sin. It was adultery. They both should have died. And he committed murder. But for some reason, a son died. Somebody died. A son died. An innocent son. Yahushua Mashiach died. And she wasn't supposed to conceive seed and bear Shaluma. But for some reason, Yahuwah did that for him. Right. So So you look at some medical terms. A swollen or distended belly is typically caused by trapped gas, food intolerances, constipation, and weight gain. He said you're gonna spread out. Your stomach gonna swell. Your adulterous belly. That's how you know. He said you know how people get them little straps and they try to suck their whole belly in, and they squeeze it in like that, and they get the thing and they try to squeeze that thing in so they can make it look like they ain't never did nothing. You know, they put their little shape thing and they tie it up. However, if the swelling is sudden, severe, or accompanied by other symptoms, it can be serious medical conditions like ascites, fluid buildup, or bowel blockage or infections. A swollen or distended stomach also is a swollen distended stomach is most often caused by excessive gas, indigestion, or constipation. However, severe underlying medical conditions can cause chronic or severe swelling ranging from digestive disorders and serious organ diseases. That's what we talked about. That he said your bowels. He said a curse will come in your bowels. Thigh conditions that present with rotting tissue, skin discolorations, or severe tissue death typically involves serious circulatory issues or aggressive bacterial infections. That's what it does. He said, yeah. Thyroid is a common nickname for a few different medical conditions that often affect the groin or inner thigh. A fungal infection. Interrogo chafing or severe skin and soft tissue infections. He said, let your thigh fall away, which means the softness of it is going to turn into rottenness, and it's going to have infections inside of your thigh, in your thighs, in a part. That's where sexually transmitted diseases come from. It's called the adulterous disease, the fornication disease. That's what it's there for. Remember, nobody, because of idol worship, nobody keeps marriages undefiled anymore. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about covenant, bereath. Nobody cares anymore. So therefore, being that you have a bunch of people who don't care, what does it create? Disease. And that's the whole point. That's why Exodus chapter 20 says, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's why he said, if you keep all my commandments, I put none of the diseases I put on all those around you. Right, so this is the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 28. Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Devarim, chapter 28, and verse... Yeah, this is where it comes from, right? So this is the book of Devarim, chapter 28, and verse 28, 27. Devarim, chapter 28, and verse 25. 28, 25. Yahuwah will cause you to be defeated before your enemies, and you shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways from before them. And you shall be a horror to all kingdoms of the earth, and your dead body shall be food for all birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. And there shall be no one to frighten them away. And Yahuwah will strike you with boils of Mizraim, and with tumors and scabs and itch, of which you cannot be healed. And Yahuwah will strike you with madness and blindness and confusion of mind. And you will grope at noonday, and as blind grope in darkness. And you shall not prosper in your ways, and you shall be only oppressed and robbed continually, and there shall be no one to help you. Why? Why is all this happening to you, Ish? Why is all this happening? You shall betroth a wife, but another shall ravish her. You shall build a house, and you shall not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, but you shall not enjoy its fruit. Why is all this happening? Going to verse 15. But if you will not obey the voice of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and be careful to do all his commandments and his statutes that I command you today, then all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. He said, you're going to eat the cup of jealousy? You're going to drink that water of the tabernacle? He said, all these curses are going to come upon you. Why? And overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall you be in the field. Cursed shall you your basket, and cursed your kneading bowls. Cursed shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground. This is all, you can have all this just because you have the Ruach of Kinah on the inside. And people causing you to have these Ruach Kinah on the inside of your heart. Just by you having it in your heart. It turned your joy into kinah, envy, and jealousy. And then you get all these boils on your skin because you ain't keeping none of the commandments. Because all you're thinking about is that kinah you got. And then what does it do? Verse 20. Yahuwah will send upon you curses, confusion, frustration in all that you undertake to do. That's what happens. Because of all the stuff and the concealment and everything that you don't know about your household. You have the Ruach Kinah, and guess what happens? It's taking over your mind. And then other demons inside of other people are using that very thing that you jealous of, or Kinah, or may not, or may happen, or things that may happen, and they're using other people to provoke you to Kinah and jealousy and make you have iniquity in your heart. And your joy is now turned to Kinah all the days of your life. And you're making terrible decisions. Until you are destroyed and perish quickly on the account of the evil of your deeds. That's what happens. You start saying things out of your mouth, and you start be doing things, and your deeds will now become evil. Because you have forsaken me. You might want to dial that down. You forsook me. You know what happens? You know what happens when you forsake Yahusha? And you don't understand how he fulfill all things? You start forsaking Yahuwah and you start to do things you shouldn't do. Yahuwah will make the pestilence stick to you until you are consumed off the land and you are entering to take possession. And Yahuwah will strike you with wasting disease. Where's that happening at? Inside, internally, and with fever. Where's that happening at? Inside your organs. Inflammation. Where's that happening at? In your bowels and your organs. And guess what? And fiery heat. All this takes place inside. And with drought, and with blight, and with mildew. And shall pursue you until you perish. This is all a part of the Ruach Kinah. And people don't want to confess and bear their iniquity. These are all a part of it. He said, how is this important? This is Mostly Proverbs 27, 1 through 5. Do not boast about tomorrow. And I said, everybody's still functioning today. You know how people say they boast about what they got. Everything's happening, right? Their households are intact. Nothing's going on. All these things that people may have, money, finances, everything that you got. He said, don't boast on tomorrow, like what you going to do tomorrow. For you do not know what a day may bring. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Let another praise you and not your own mouth. He said, let somebody else do that. Don't you do it. A stranger and not your own lips. Let a stranger do it. Because if you keep, I'm telling you, you keep letting people praise you, and then guess what? Ruach Kinah come upon you. You know what happens. Ruach Kinah come up people who boast about themselves and things they do and all that, and then next thing you know, they got the Ruach of jealousy on the Ruach Kinah, and they saying things they should not say. He said, just let one of your Nisha commit it. You thinking that she doing something outside your knowledge and under your authority, and she sleeping around. You gonna have a Ruach Kinah, and you better not be wrong either. That's the whole point. You better not be wrong. A stone is heavy and sand is weighty. It's heavy, right? You'll lift it up. But a fool's provocation is heavier than both. He said, man, your words is heavier than both. A heavy bag of sand and a stone. He said, it's heavier than both. Now he says, let us cast away and lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily gets to us. And let us run this race with patience. That's why you don't be boasting about tomorrow, because James or Jacob already told us. Such boasting is evil, devilish, of Satan. Wrath is cruel. Okay, here we go. You know what Kinah is? Wrath, anger, and anger is overwhelming. Man, you get the Ruach Kinah on the side in your heart and your mind. It'll be overwhelming. It might overwhelm you and everybody around you. But who can stand against Kinah? He said, who gonna stand against that? I don't know anybody who's gonna do that. Better is open to Ka than hidden love. He said, man, it's better just to rebuke to Ka than hidden love and giving that living water, giving the cup of jealousy, giving the cup of bitter water. He said, it's better to give it a cup of bitter water than to have all that in your heart, than to have hidden love. I'm hiding my love. I'm gonna keep it all in. No. Just go ahead and just throw it and put it out. Why? Because you can get it out. That's the whole point. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Now you see why. Now you see why Yahushua said, handle me and see my hands and my side. Is it not me? My Adon, my master, my Elohim. Isn't it what he said? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Who gonna stand against Kinah? Who gonna get rid of Kinah, the Ruach of Kinah and jealousy? Matter of fact, who gonna drink the bitter cup? For the woman who may or may not have committed adultery against her husband. Who gonna do that? Who gonna cancel all that out? Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Now you see why a woman that kissed you after she committed adultery. Why do you think Judas kissed him? He said, the man that I kissed, this is him. And he went over there and kissed Yahushua Mashiach. He was an enemy. He was already committing adultery. What do you think that was when Kawua was defiled by Nakash and he went to go to her husband he ate? She kissed him. She kissed him. How else you gonna get him to eat that? How? How you gonna kiss it? Once you kiss that defiled woman, what do you do? What happened to him? He ate too. How do you think a bird, when a bird carries a message or carries something in its mouth to its young, what does she do? She carried it in her mouth and she feeds her out of her own mouth. He said, you carried it. The kiss of an enemy is deceitful. That's why he said, when you kiss a woman kisses you on the cheek or kiss you, and she committed adultery, he's like, man, you committed adultery on me. Ruach Kina, right? That's why Yahushua said your enemy's gonna be there of your own household. That's why he said, greet one another with a Kudash kiss. And then what he said? But he said, you an enemy. Right, so that word for open is better than its open rebuke. Is in the secret law. That word for open is galah. It means to uncover. And then what they did to the woman when she was, you put unstrap her hair. Some translations say uncover herself. He says better is open rebuke than hidden love. So how you going? So when a woman gets uncovered, it says to uncover, to remove, to depart, to discover or show oneself. That's the whole point. To reveal himself. That's what open rebuke does. It reveals who you are. To disclose, to discover, to lay bare. Right? It means to denude. It means to usually stripped. Figuratively to reveal. So how is a priest, Kahanim, going to know when a woman commits adultery and treating a couple of jealousy? How are they going to know that her thigh rotted? Her loins and all this stuff. How are they going to know? They're going to have to open rebuke. They're going to have to she got to strip herself down to show that she ain't did nothing. She would have to strip all her clothes off in order for them to know that her thigh hasn't rotted and her belly hasn't swelled. It also means to be uncovered, to reveal oneself. They would have to strip her down. Why didn't they strip off Yahushua's clothes and cast lots for his garments? Why didn't they do that? You got to strip the person down. That's open. It's called open rebuke. They took off his clothes and stripped him naked. It's better than hidden love. So if it was hidden, then it would have been hidden love. He's like, no, I'm going to strip you down and beat you down. But it said, figuratively or reveal. He said, how is all this important? Because he said, faithful are the wounds of a friend, right? So this is the book of Yuchanan, chapter 19. John chapter 19 and verse 33. Yuchanan chapter 19 and verse 33. But when they came to Yahushua and saw that he was dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced in his side with a spear, and at once came out blood and water. Isn't that what we just read? Isn't what a swelling belly does? We just read that. He said, let your thigh rot and let your belly swell. He said, it's like a tree full of water. Didn't we read that? It's just like a tree full of water. And amazingly, they pierced him in his side, and out came blood and water. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. So who your friend? Who you think died for your sins? That's why he pierced in his side, out came blood and water. Man, his belly swelled. According to Torah, not according to somebody just saying things. Because we just read it. He just showed it. And guess what? And he who saw it bore witness. He said, I saw it. Matter of fact, I bore witness that it was the cup of jealousy, and he was guilty. Actually, she was guilty. Actually, they both were guilty because they both partook of the same nakash in the garden. They both were guilty, Adam and Kuhl. That's why the ruach of jealousy came from the man. He said, man, I'm not going to lay with you if you've been defiled. No. We got to figure out if you did that. Drink this cup. And she said, Amin. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice? Amin. He said, I had to. She said, I had to do it. Because she had to agree to it. Amin. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice in totality? And then they pierced him inside, and his belly was swollen, and they pierced him inside, and out came blood and water. It's showing you that he was guilty. Because we were guilty. So he bore our guilt and our shame, because we should have been stripped naked. The woman should have been stripped naked and shown all her stuff to show that her thigh had rotted and her belly swelled. Her thigh, nafal, it fell away. For these things took place that the scripture might be fulfilled. That's the whole reason. Right, this is the book of Job, Aydah, chapter 13, 23 through 27. How many are my iniquities and my sins? How many? Make me know my transgression and my sin. How you going to do that? You got to make you drink the cup of bitterness. The water of bitterness. I got to make you drink it. The bitter water. Why do you hide your face and count me as your enemy? Because your kisses are deceit. He said, what? Why you ain't around me no more? He said, your kisses are deceitful. Because it seems like I got a ruach kinah on the inside of my heart and my mind. He says, will you frighten a driven leaf and pursue dry chaff? He said, well, I'm so gentle and small. You know how it is, like real gentle and small. You gonna frighten me away? For you write bitter things against me. Now you see why when the ruach kinah come on you, he said, you're gonna write bitter things against me. Now you see why Yahushua, you don't hear all these things they're saying about you? And they wrote it in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. He said he was the king of Yahudim. He said he was the king of the Yahudim. You write bitter things against me and make me inherit the iniquities of my youth. You make me, he's like, man, you just make me inherit the iniquities of my youth. Or you mean the iniquity that I bear because I have the ruach kinah on the inside of me. Because you are stealthily and covertly doing things. And now I'm saying things, he said, and writing bitter things. And now I have the ruach kinah. And I have iniquity of my youth inside of me that I thought was gone. Because I have kinah on the inside. People say, why do after women commit adultery on their husband, women commit adultery, men just go wild and just start doing all types of things that he would do when he was in with Yahuwah. He said, why would you do that? Your feet, he says, for you write bitter things against me and make me inherit the iniquities of my youth. He says, you put my feet in stocks and watch all my paths. He said, why would you do that? You set limits for the sole of my feet. He said, now you setting limits for the sole of my feet. I can't even go nowhere. Regard. Because you got the ruach kinah. Or somebody calling you ruach kinah, or somebody is just committing adultery. So now I have to block your way so you won't do nothing crazy. Because you know how it is when you get ruach kinah. I can't let you go nowhere right now. I can't let you do nothing right now because you got the ruach kinah on the inside of you. Man wastes away like a rotten thing. And he said, you know, you wasting away like a rotten thing. Your inner bowels. We just read that in Deuteronomy 28. Like a garment that is moth-eaten, right? So that word for bitter in there is manorah. It means gall. You know what they gave Yahushua? Gave him sour wine mixed with gall. He said, you write bitter things against me. Now you see why he drunk it. He said, man, he been writing me a whole bunch of stuff. He like, yeah. That's why I had to drink the wine, the bitter wine. Because he had Ruach Kinah, and now he's inheriting the iniquities of his youth. Now they're all coming back to mind. Bitter thing, consequently a venom. He said, you nakash. That's all it is nakash. I told you anybody can be nakash. You can turn into nakash. You get the right ruach on the inside. You be right in the nakash, speaking smooth things, naba and deceit, saying evil things and lying. You're turning nakash. You're turning into nakash, right? So that word for stocks is sad or sad. You know what happens when you can't go nowhere? I can't go nowhere. My feet are this. He said, you got my feet in stocks. I can't go nowhere. It's a securing of feet for prisoners. Right? Now you sad because now you went from, think of all these emotions. Ruach Kinah, jealousy, anger, wrath, and then now you sad or sad and you're in prison because you can't get out. Now you see why Yahusha said, come to terms with your accuser quickly. Now you see why the woman had to take the cup of jealousy that fast. Lest he deliver you over to the judge, and the judge deliver you over to the jailers, and you won't get out until you paid every last penny. You know what Yahusha said? People say, what do you mean by that? That's what he meant. He said that man gonna hand you over to the judge. And people say, what do you mean by that? That meant, people have no idea. What do you think judgment gonna be like? I assure you, ain't nobody gonna be like, yeah, I'm good. That's why he says, there's a reason why he says this. This is Matthew chapter 24, Matthew 25:21. Matthew 5:21. It says, you have heard it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whosoever murders is liable of judgment. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother or sister will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel. Man, you write bitter things against me. Matter of fact, you are literally angry with me. You got a Ruach Kinah. His brother or sister will be liable to judgment. Whosoever insults his brother or sister will be liable to counsel. Whosoever says you fool will be liable to hellfire. He said, so you saying I change like the wind? You say I change like the moon? So you saying I'm a fool? You think I don't think there's an Elohim Yahuwah though? You think I don't believe there's an Elohim Yahuwah? I know there's an Elohim. His name is Yahuwah. So you don't believe I do? So you saying I'm a fool? So if you are offering your gift at the altar and you remember that your brother or sister or husband or wife or mother or father, sister or brother has something against you, he's like, man, that man got something against you. Why do you think that woman said? He said, if you do it now, he said, I mean, please. Leave your gift there before the altar and go. Be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Now you see why he tells you they're not the wife depart from her husband. But if she depart, let her be reconciled to her husband. Isn't what he said? Because if you're going to go offer your gift, on the altar, that's what people say they're going to do, though. You show. Come to terms quickly. What I got to do? Here go the cup. Now you see why Yahusha said he fulfilled a short time and a long time. He came to terms quickly with all the stuff we did in the book of Turah. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court. Where do you think that woman was going with their husband? Lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, to the Kohanim, the Ruach Kinah, and the judge to the guard. He said, man, you got my feet in the stocks. And you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will not get out until you pay the last penny. He said, you ain't getting out. So that word for stocks is sad. You ever seen people in prison? They be sad. They say sad, but it's sad. And guess what? It means stocks, feet for prison, right? So your feet ain't going nowhere, right? So that word for man, he says man wasting away like a rotten thing. When you're in prison, that's what happens. It means to decay, rottenness. And then what he say, your thigh gonna rot? Decay, rottenness. And then what he say, your thigh gonna rot? if you eat this water, you're going to be put in the prison, and you ain't going to get out until you pay the last penny. Your thigh and your loins going to rot, and then what? Your belly going to swell, your organs. Because usually in prison, you don't really get that type of what you think. That's what happens. Right? So it said, man will waste away like a rotten thing, like a garment. That word for garment is beged. It means treachery, deceit. And then what that word for bitterness, he said treachery. Ma'al. He said, you ma'al. That word for garment is beged. It means treachery, deceit, a covering, that is clothing, also treachery, pillage, and apparel, wardrobe. He said, man waste away like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. He said that garment is, you know how you ever seen somebody just seen things as eat things? He said, you put your clothes on, that thing just eat it off. He was like, man, what happened to my clothes? You just been uncovered, right? That word for moth, man waste away like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. That word for moth is ish. That's what it says. Ayin shin. Ish. Moth, herbage, grass. He says it's like something moth-eating. He said your garments are like something that is moth-eaten. He said, are you in prison? And your feet, you can't go nowhere. That's what happens. This is Sirach chapter 30, 22 through 24. The gladness of the heart is the life of men. Now you see why he says, she's not really pondering the way of life, and she don't even know that where she is going. You don't know. The gladness of heart is the life of man, not the kinah. The ruach of jealousy is not the life of man. And the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days. Live joyfully with the wife of thy youth. Let her breast be the only thing that satisfies you. Matter of fact, drink from your own cistern and your own spring. You'll be real joyful. It's my own spring. Ain't nobody else drunk from it but me. Love thine own soul. He said, he that loveth his wife loves himself. And comfort thy heart. Remove sorrow far from thee. For sorrow hath killed many. And there is no profit therein. This is why in Isha, when you provoke your ish to kinah, then it takes away his joy and it brings him to sorrow and anger and wrath, and it shortens his life. And you're not living joyfully with anybody. Verse 24, envy and wrath shortens life. And that ruach kinah right there, it'll shorten your life. And carefulness brings age before time. It's going to make you old. It's going to make you waste away in your internal organs, your liver, your kidneys, your intestines. You're going to have the body of a young person. Your organs going to be like you're ready to die. That's what's happening in the world today. All that ruach kinah, all these people, with all these relationships jumping in and out of them, everybody got the ruach kinah on the inside of them. That's why everybody all over the place. Everybody, man, that person died at 25, 22. He done had about 8 relationships by the time he turned 24. And he got ruach kinah on every last one of them. He wasn't married to none of them. He just had the ruach of jealousy, and he wanted to just do all types. You know what I'm saying? And then all these things take over your organs and your liver and your kidneys, and you die. Early. He had a heart attack. How your organs go from you 20-something years old, how you die? Because of ruach kinah. Envy and wrath. Jealousy and envy. And carefulness brings age before time. All your internal organs, you 22, 25, 30, 40, and your internal organs is 90 and 80. Because of ruach kinah. Because of your jealousy and your envy. And most of it is caused by people just manipulating your emotions. Sirach 42, 11 through 13. Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thy enemies, and a byword in the city. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And reproach among the people, because if all the people find out, they're going to be making you, you're going to get even more angry. And then you're going to have that, make thee ashamed before the multitude. Then you don't want to go nowhere. You say you're going to be like in a prison. in the stocks. And you'll be writing bitter words to every single person. Matter of fact, you're going to be writing all these bitter words against me. And you're going to remember all the sins of your youth too. Verse 12, behold not everybody's beauty, right? And sit not in the midst of women. What type of women? There's certain types of women. Shameless women. Don't do it. Why? For from garments cometh moths, right? Because you know how shameless women, them moths be flying around. You ever seen the movies where they have somebody running and they have all these insects flying around them, right? These moths are around them. And from women, wickedness. He said, just like moths that come and eat your garments off and make you rot away and eat off your garments. That's how women are that are shameless. They'll eat your garments off. Why do you think Yusuf, when he was in the house and a woman grabbed his garment, didn't he? And ripped that thing off, shameless woman. And what happened? That man had to run out of there naked. Why? Because she a shameless daughter. She a shameless woman. That's the whole point. Amnon, when he grabbed her, he said, man, you know what? I'm sick. Nakash, I need you to feed. I want to feed from your hand. And you know what happened after that? He overpowered her and took something that didn't belong to him. And then he cast her away, for the love he had for her, the hatred he had for her was more than the love he had for her. He cast her out after he took her virginity. After he took it. And he cast her out, for he had more hatred for her than love, Ahava. How you say you desire somebody and have more hatred than love? Because your hatred and your love shows in your actions and what you do. This is book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, 16 through 18. But I say that wisdom is better than might. So much better, right? Though the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heard. The words of the wise heard in quiet is better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom, Hakmah, is better than weapons of war. And one sinner destroys much good. He said, man, the words of the wise and heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler amongst fools. Because you ain't going to be able to discern all this with all that. You're not. Where for quietness in the Nakath, it means quietness, quiet attitude. Rest, death, descent, judgment. It means unfavorable descent, but it also means lighting or restfulness. When you're talking about restfulness in shaka'ah, right? Sowing seed in a woman that ain't your wife. Right? We're talking about restfulness and wisdom to know that not to do that. And all the other things you're not supposed to do. And not participate in it. Right? This is Psalms 32, 6 through 9. Therefore, let everyone who is conceived offer prayer at the time that he may be found. If you're going to acknowledge your transgressions, then you can, hey man, you must be a kind individual. You must be a kind individual. Surely in the great waters, they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance, Selah. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. And I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Be not like a horse and a mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bits and bridle, or it will not stay near you. He said, don't do it. That word for godly is kasid, faithful, kind ones, faithful ones. Why? So that's the whole point. Read Ephesians chapter 4, 29 to 32. Let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth. What can corrupt talk? To provoke someone to kina and jealousy, or Nisha provoking your husband to kina and jealousy, that's corrupt talk coming out of your mouth. Or a man sowing bitter words because he got kina and jealousy, that's corrupt talk coming out of your mouth. Swindling and extortion, that's corrupt talk coming out of your mouth. But only such as is good for the building up. He said, I ain't going to build you up. That's jealousy and wrath tears everything down. As it fits the occasion. Everything, he said, it ain't fit your occasion. He said, your occasion is, life is short. into that. You ain't got that long. There's no occasion for that. It's already a short life. You want to shorten it even more? You know how it says the ruach of jealousy and wrath shortens life. So you want to shorten it even more. It's already short. By whom you are sealed for the day of redemption. Or actually go, that fits the occasion, that it may be give cause to those who hear. And do not grieve the Qahalath ruach of Yahuwah, by whom you are sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind one to another, tenderhearted. This is all a part. Forgiving one another, as Yahushua Mashiach has forgiven. As Yahuwah, in Yahushua Mashiach, forgave you. You saying he did all that? Yeah, he did all that. Took the sour wine, got pierced in his side, took a cup of jealousy. Matter of fact, he even did it. He even did it so much to where even the ruach kinah, even the jealous envy that Yahuwah had on us, he said, you know what? I'll bear that too. Visiting iniquities upon the fathers, upon the children. And he said, why hit him? Hebrews 12, 13 through 15. Therefore lift up your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. That's the whole point. Strive for shalom with everyone. It doesn't matter who they are. And for Qahalath, without which no one will see Yahuwah. See that no one fails to obtain the Khan of Yahuwah, that no root of bitterness springs up. How is it going to happen? You water it. You know, a person envy Kinah Ruach Kinah, and you start watering it with your, he said, your arrogance and your boasting. And cause trouble. It's just going to cause trouble. And by it, many become defiled. Now you defiled like the woman who committed adultery. I ain't been defiled in here. You drink the cup of bitterness. And then you drink the cup of bitterness with all that, you defiled. Many are defiled now. And then they drink the cup of bitterness after all that. If you done sold your root of bitterness done sprung up, then you drink the bitter cup again and you start eating Yahushua's flesh and drink his blood. And guess what? You defiled again. Because it's going to show your guilt. All it does is defile people. This is James chapter 3, 13 through 14. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in meekness and hukmah, wisdom, because it's better to hear it in quiet. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambitions in your heart, what do you think adultery is? What do you think bitterness is? It comes from selfish ambitions of an Isha, and then the husband got bitter jealousy. That ain't not going to happen to you good. In your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. He said, man, you got to settle this. Do not. Right? This is not the wisdom that comes from above, but earthly and unspiritual and demonic. That's what all it is. For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice, disorder in marriages, and no one will ever keep things undefiled. It's all a disorder in vile practice. That's all it is. But the wisdom from above is first pure, tahor, peaceful, shalom, gentle, conceived, anu, right? Open to reason, full of mercy, and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in shalom by those who make shalom. Right? This is Colossians 3, 18 through 19. Wives, submit yourselves as fitting to Yahuwah. Husbands, love your wives, and do not be harsh with them. And word for harsh is pikareno. It means to embitter, to make bitter, to be bitter. Now you see why Yahushua took the sour wine. He said, why he did all that? He said, don't make bitter. Don't be bitter. He said, don't be bitter with them. Because sometimes things happen. And when you get out, he said, Ruach Kinah, it creates certain things, right? Right, this is Psalms 37, 7 through 11. Be still before, Psalms 37, 7 through 11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Karah, not yourself, over the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices, or woman. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath, because they shorten your life. Fret not yourself, it tends only to evil. For the evildoer shall be cut off, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydahs. Just a little while, the wicked will be no more, though you look carefully at his place, but he will not be there. But the meek, Anu, shall inherit the Aydahs, and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. Right, so that word for fret is karath. It means to be hot, furious, burn with anger, angry, to be incensed, to be heat. You know what we just read? To heat oneself in vexation. You powering up. You know, they say they power. You know how you have people power up. Ready, power up. In one's vexation. To glow, right? You start to glow warm, grow warm. Blaze up of anger, zeal, right? There it is, jealousy. Your zeal and your jealousy. That's Ruach Kinah. Don't you do it. That's that Ruach Kinah. You know how this woman committed adultery, you go be with somebody else and they all prospering. They got all their stuff going. Everything look good. You be like, man, you done ruined my life, right? And then they balling out of control, right? And he's like, man, the only thing you're gonna want to do is do something. And you're gonna get upset. He said, don't let it detangle your emotions. He said, don't do it. Angry, be displeased, be grieved. Don't grieve not the Kudash Ruach. That's what Satan doing it for. Why you think he gonna let them prosper, boast, look good, feel good, doing way greater, right? And he wants you to be grieved in your Ruach. Don't grieve the Kudash Ruach, for you are sealed until the day of redemption. That's the whole point. That's the only reason. Be wax hot, right? You don't want to do that. Be raw. You're going to shorten your life. Right? That's the whole point. That word for meek is anu. To be poor, humble, afflicted, needy, lowly, meek, poor, humble, meek. Because that's the whole point. Right? This Nazarene action of Shaly'shy, how demons get power over men, women, and children. Therefore, demons, as we have just said, when once have been able by means of opportunities afforded them to convey themselves through base and evil actions. Right? Because once that woman committed adultery, sakana, right? Sakana, right? It what? Creates what? And man will lay seed inside her, and it creates a Ruach Kinah. It creates more sin. Sin on top of sin on top of sin. And evil actions in the bodies of men, women, and children, it comes inside. So that's why it's already inside of you. So that's why Yahuwah has them drink the cup of bitter water. So they can get inside of you too with the demons. And they're going to show them demons on the inside of you. And they're going to rot your liver and your kidneys. They're going to show where they at. That's the whole point of this. It's going to show where they are at. And they get rid of them. If they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, because they don't seek after what is profitable for their inner beings, because it's inside of your bowels, they necessarily compel them for the future to fulfill the desires of the demons that dwell in them. That's why that person commits adultery over and over again. That's why that person thinks about lying and doing things over and over again, because it's still inside of you. That's what happens. But what is worse, at the end of the age, when the demons will be co-signing the ageless fire, the necessity of the Ruach also that obeyed him, with him will be tortured in ageless fires in the body which it has polluted. Right? It's all, people say nothing happened. Yeah, it do. Right? This is Aleph Yukonah 1, 2, 24 to 28. That what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Ben, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. They're gonna give you smooth words, not but deceit. They ain't gonna tell you what's gonna really happen to you. But the anointing you receive from him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. But the anointing teaches you about everything and is true and no lie, just as it is taught you, abide in him. Now, little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence. you may have confidence. And not shrink from him in shame at his coming. That's the whole point. That's why the woman said, if you ain't never do anything, then you'll be guilty. Right? If you have confidence, you're going to drink that cup. If you ain't got no confidence, you're going to be like, nah, I ain't drinking that cup. I ain't drinking that bitter water. But not even knowing, that's the whole point of the whole thing. If you agree, I mean, that's two witnesses. And guess what? If it be so, if it's not, you shall bear seed. If not, you're going to be cursed. And that's the way it works. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 3, 17 to 28. My son and daughter, go on thy business, and they ain't new. So shall thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Ain't new. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Ain't new. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. If she did it, and it was concealed from his eyes, and he ain't know about it, and the Ruach of Kinah come upon him, and he Kinah over the woman, he said, it ain't needful for you to see what's done in secret. So all they're going to do is play with your emotions. They're going to play with your thoughts. They're going to play with your mind. And it's going to have you grieving the Ruach. It's going to grieve you. He said, ain't needful for you to see with thy eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters. He said, all that other stuff that in this world today is all unnecessary. He said, man, all that stuff is just unnecessary. For more things are showed unto thee than men and women understand. So people think that little secret thing that they hold, that one secret that they hide, they think that's, he said, I can see way more than that. And you don't allow that one little secret thing that you see with your own eyes affect all the other stuff you can see. And that's shown to you. He said, you see all this other stuff shown to you, and you worried about that little secret thing that you don't know about. And that's why the Ruach Kinah is so dangerous. It won't allow you to see the other things that are shown unto you. Right? So this is the last thing. This is the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 17, 9. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 13. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 13. The woman's folly is loud, she is seductive and knows nothing. He's like, that's the folly of a woman. That's exactly why Yahushua said, crucify who you want. Let him be crucified. That's what Yahshua and Yehuda did. She said, she is seductive and knows nothing. She's just like in the Chdsh. Because wisdom is heard in quiet more than the shouting of a ruler among fools. That's why he says it's better. She sits at the door of her house and she takes a seat on the highest place of the town. Right, she sit right there. Calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. He's like, man, I'm focused. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. Now she's like, you need anything? You need anything? You need anything? Extra service? You need something? You need something? You know how it is. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. It's real sweet. And bread eaten in secret is pleasant. It's not needed for you to see it with our eyes the things are in secret. But he does not know. Which means my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That the dead are there. You need anything? You need anything? And you say, why are they doing all that? To get your attention and come inside of there. inside of that place, inside of that understanding, inside of that gathering. That her guests are in the depths of Sheol. They don't know it though. They don't know they're guests in the depths of Sheol. They don't even know it. He said they don't even know. All right, so we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the light of life. We look at the aura of life from the beginning. Ruach Marakah, when Ruach moved upon the face of the waters, Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Knowing that in that aura, that light, he said they hate the light, neither come to the light, lest their deeds should be exposed. If they were of Yahuwah, it was wrought in Yahuwah or worked in Yahuwah or not. That's what the cup of jealousy was for, that bitter water. Just to let you see if your deeds were worked in Yahuwah or not. And if not, one has the opportunity to say, acknowledge their sins and their guilt, and may have life again. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of it. So we look at all that, we look at everything that's happened and everything that's going to happen. So of a truth, Yahushua Mashiach has come and made us free. And that freedom, that Chdsh, is declared to all people, everywhere. All those who can hear, perceive, and understand. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Aynu shall inherit the Adultery.